everybody, my name is Mars, you can call me MG if you'd like, and I am starting this vlog at nearly 10 p.m. because it is time for what I call bedtime book club, which is just me essentially getting into bed and reading for 30 to 45 minutes before I go to sleep. And the book that I will be reading is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong, so I'm starting the vlog for this book. This is the January and February pick for my own book club, the Honeybee Society, where we read a dark academia book every 2 months. Like I said, this is for January, February, seeing as we are nearing the midpoint of February. It's about time I read this, and I am very excited to crack this open. I actually put a lot of dark academia on my plate for this month, and I've read one of them so far. This will be my second, and then I still have 2 other books that I'm hoping to get to this month that have dark academia vibes, so it's gonna be a lot this month, but this is the one that I am vlogging because it is for my book club, and I will read the back blurb for you. And it says, "For 20 years, Sayana has devoted every waking moment to the study of magic, fueled by a mad desire to achieve the impossible, to be the first woman ever admitted to the high magistry at the University of Magics and Industry. When Sayana finally passes the qualifying exam and becomes a high mage, she finds her challenges have just begun. Her new colleagues are determined to make her feel unwelcome, and instead of a qualified lab assistant, they give her a janitor. What neither Sayana nor her peers realize is that her taciturn assistant was not always a janitor. 10 years ago, he was a nomadic hunter who lost his family on their perilous journey from the wild plains to the city. But now he sees the opportunity to understand the forces that decimated his tribe, drove him from his homeland, and keep the privileged in power. At first, mage and outsider have a fractious relationship, but working together, they uncover an ancient secret that could change the course of magic forever, if it doesn't get them killed first." And that sounds so good. The first 2 picks for my book club were both contemporary, so they were The Secret History by Donna Tartt and what is that called? The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. So I'm glad we are getting to a fantasy dark academia, and I think this is going to be a really good one. First of all, delightfully floppy. There's also some maps and diagrams in the beginning of the book. So we have this spellograph. Don't know what that is, but I'm excited. It looks kind of like a typewriter, but with runes. So that's pretty fun. And then we have this map of Tiron, which is the city that this takes place in. And then we actually get a table of contents because these chapters have names. I love chapters with names. I am very bad at naming my own chapters, which is why none of my published books have chapter names, but I appreciate when books do have that. And this book has 23 chapters, which is quite a lot for past books for my vlogs. I updated you either at the end of every chapter or at the end of every part. I will not be updating you at the end of every chapter because that's 23 updates, and that is crazy. So every few chapters I will be updating you. This vlog will be spoilery, so if you have not yet read Blood Over Brighthaven and you would like to do that, definitely go do that and then come back to watch this video to get my thoughts on things. But yeah, I am going to head to bed and get a little bit of reading done and crack into this bad boy. So I will see you with an update after I've read the first couple chapters. Hello friends, it is the next day, a little bit before noon. I did some reading last night before bed and a little bit of reading just now, and I'm now about 50 pages in. I am, if we want to be exact about this, 56 pages in to Blood Over Brighthaven, and I figured that was a good place to give you my first update, because this was the first 3 chapters, and we have seen both of our POV characters, which I didn't expect a POV from our main character other than Sayana, but the first chapter is from what was his name? His name's not on the back of the book, so it's hard for me to remember. Tommel. Thomil. Uh, Probably a million ways to pronounce that, but in my head it's Tommel, so that's what I'm going with. And we see him. He is a member of the Caldane? Is that what it's? Yeah, Caldane? Something like that. They are a nomadic tribe that has been dwindling. They were once over 10,000 people, and at the time of the start of this story, they have dropped down to 40 for a variety of factors like natural disasters, racism, things of that nature. And the last 40 surviving members of this tribe have decided that they are going to try and get into Tiran, this city that has this magical barrier around it to protect it in order to protect the last 40 people of their tribe. And they know that they're not all going to survive. They have to cross this lake that is mostly frozen, but not entirely. And they also have to deal with the Blight, which is a capital B blight, and it's this like natural malevolent force that I'm hoping we learn more about, which we're definitely going to learn more about, but I'm intrigued. And it appears in this like flash of light and rends all of the material of your body off of you so that you end up as a pile of bones and hair and clothing. Gruesome. We do not shy away from that in these first couple of chapters. We are getting right down to the nitty gritty of it. This is in third person close, so we are in Tommel's POV, and he witnesses this happen to pretty much his entire tribe. He witnesses a lot of his tribe drowning as they fall through into this not quite solidly frozen lake, and the only people to make it to the city are him and his 4-year-old niece, Kara, except he knows that even though the people of Tiran hate outsiders, essentially, in a very xenophobic, racist way, that it is against their religion to separate knowingly parents and children. So he says, "This is my daughter," so that they can stay together. And at first they're like, "We should just push both of you back over the border because what good are you going to be to us?" And he's like insisting that he can work and he can be of use, and that's how he saves himself. And then he's like, "This is my daughter," and that's how he saves Kara. So that is all we've seen from his POV. We then jump for the next 2 chapters to Sayana, and she is essentially going for her doctorate in magical research. She has reached the highest level of study that women are allowed to have in this society, which is like essentially a doctorate. Like, it's still pretty high. She's been studying a lot of magic, but only one woman every 10 years is allowed to sit for the exam to become a high mage, and she is the woman chosen for this decade, and she passes with some mishaps. She definitely makes some enemies on the Archmage Council, but luckily she also has her mentor, the guy whose lab she's been working in for like 10 years. He is also an Archmage, and she ends up becoming the first woman ever accepted to become a High Mage, and she learns that there are plans to expand the barrier around Tiran to encompass more of the land, and she is going to be studying that in her own lab. And the magic in this is so interesting. It's definitely a scientific approach to magic, which I love, one of my favorite things. And they use, which actually, the spellograph is on the cover, that's what this thing is, and it is essentially a typewriter of runes, and there are like multiple steps to spell work. They source, like sourcing is a specific term used in this, the power to like run these spells using energy from the other world, I think is what it was called, which is also known as God's bounty, because magic and science and religion are all like bound up into one thing in this society, which I think is fascinating. So I'm having a really good time. There's also at the beginning of every chapter these little blurbs from the Tiracid, I think is how it's pronounced, but it's essentially one of the holy books. So we've gotten some blurbs from that. And there's also like these part breaks. There was one after chapter 1, and then chapter 2 and 3 were together, and now there's another break. Oh my gosh, I feel like I have to sneeze. Okay, I'm just gonna finish up this clip. So yeah, interesting things are happening. I'm so intrigued to go forward. I do have work in a couple of hours, unfortunately, but I will be doing a little bit more reading. I'm gonna try and get this done by Sunday because the vlog is currently scheduled for Monday, and I don't have another vlog to like swap it out with. So yeah, my goal is to read at least 100 pages a day, if not more, which I can definitely read 50 more pages before work, and then also after work. I get out at 9, so I'll have some time before bed to read. I think it's very doable in that time frame in order to get this vlog to you in a timely manner. But I am really enjoying it so far, and I'm excited to continue on. Good morning, friends. It is just about 9 a.m. and I have an update on Blood over Brighthaven. I would have updated you an hour ago, but I was still in bed, and then as soon as I got out of bed, there was a very loud car blasting music for like 45 minutes, and they have just finally left, so I can update you on the next chunk that I read. I've read a few more chapters, and I'm now 114 pages into this book, and I'm having a great time still. We are getting hints of a romance. I don't know if there's a romance between Sayana and Tommel in this, but there have been a couple of moments where I'm like, there might be something, and I don't know how I feel about that, especially I don't know how I feel about it being like put in so early. So we'll keep an eye on that plot thread and see what happens, but essentially Sayana arrives to get to her new office, her new lab, because she has her own lab as a high mage, and the boys, the other high mages, are like making jokes and everything because of course. And they're like, "Oh, sorry, we don't have any lab assistants for you. They're all taken up, but you can have Tommy over there." Tommy being Tommel, and he's a janitor there. And she's like, "You know what? Let's do it. You can be my assistant." So she's been introducing him to the like basics of all of this magic and how to use a spellograph and things like that. And it's great because that is a good way of introducing these concepts to the reader while not making it info dumpy. So I enjoy how that is happening. We do see more of the racist elements, but we also are already getting moments of like, maybe the way I've been raised isn't great because this is, I mean, so they're called Quen, Kwen, in the Tyranish language, and Sayana, like, knows Quen people, but has never, like, interacted with one on an extended basis, and she's like just been thinking about all of the things that are said about those people, like how she's at one point she almost makes a joke about how rapidly the Quen population increases, and she like kind of stops herself and she thinks about how her aunt would say they breed like rats, but she's always found that to be offensive. So in her mind, she would have said they breed like rabbits, but she's like, actually, that also is kind of offensive now that I'm thinking about it. And there's been a couple more moments like that. So I'm glad that we're getting those realizations early on because I do love a story about a character who overcomes their prejudices and their upbringing. And it is a little bit simple, but also it's a book. Like, it's not going to be fully as complicated as real life. But yeah, that is essentially what has happened in this section. I did reading last night in bed with Gremlin, as you saw. The cats have just been loving bedtime book club lately, what can I say? But I will pick this up probably not till after work. Like I said, it's about 9 a.m. and I have to get ready for work at 10 a.m. And I think I'm going to spend the next hour doing writing things, and I will save reading for tonight. Yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. It's not as dense as I thought it would be. The magic is a little bit complicated, but not overly so. And like I said, I'm enjoying the way the magical concepts are being explained to the reader through the characters. So, yeah, pretty fun time so far. And I'm about a quarter of the way through, so making good progress. I will see you after I read the next 50 or so pages as a nice little chunk. Hello, friends. It is now almost 1 p.m. on Saturday. There are a bunch of cars going by. My apologies. I was not feeling well yesterday after work, and I was still feeling very bad this morning, so I ended up calling out of work. It was this whole to-do because I'm a manager, and so only another manager could take my shift, and I feel really bad about it, but I know that if I had gone to work, I would not have lasted the entire shift. So I stayed home and I do feel a little bit better, but still not great. So I have been taking things slowly, taking things easy. I've decided that the way I'm going to ensure a speedy recovery from whatever has hit me in the past 24 hours is with hydrating. So I've got my cup of water. Definitely have not actually been drinking that as much as I should these past couple of hours, but that's fine. Low screen time, which is fine because I have my book to read, which is what this update is really about, but also some fresh air. So I think I'm going to go take a walk to the library. I went the other day. I don't know if I said this to you guys, but I went the other day to pick up a book, and they're supposed to open at 10, and I was there at 10:30, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, our security guard isn't here yet, so I can't let you in. He's gonna be here in like 10 to 20 minutes." And I'm like, "Okay, it's 30 degrees outside. I'm not waiting that long." So I didn't get my book, but then that's fine. I'm kind of rambling. You can tell that the brain fog is not going away anytime soon, but I have been reading. So I'm now halfway through Blood Over Brighthaven. It's been about 100 pages since I updated you, and what 100 pages they have been. So, warning again that this is a spoilery vlog, so if you don't want to know what happens without reading it, pause this, go read the book, come back to it later. So we have Sayana and Tamil, who are trying to, essentially, I don't know how much of this I've explained because my brain isn't working properly, but we have Tiran, which is this city with this like dome of magic around it to protect it from the Blight, which is this thing that I'm pretty sure I've already explained, that we get a first-hand view of in the first chapter from Tamil's POV. And essentially, the Tyranish mages perform magic with these spellographs, which are essentially like typewriters, and they have this big thing here that allows them to see into the other world, which is like this the other realm, this place that God has supposedly shown them, and they siphon energy from there to power the dome and their entire city. It's got like a little bit of a steampunk slash gas lamp fantasy vibe to it in that way, but it shows up in this little viewing portal as these like kind of foggy areas where like the higher concentration of energy is like a more solid color of white against a dark background, and the like darker spots have less energy to siphon from. And there is this forbidden zone directly in the center of the other realm that they are not allowed to siphon energy from, and it is in the shape of a perfect circle. And essentially the city is looking to expand this barrier around Tiran, so the high mages are all trying to figure out the best and most efficient way to do that, and a series of things happen that I won't like get to the nitty-gritty of, but essentially these other high mages are all working together, and Sayana is all on her own because she refuses to let men take credit for her work because she's the first female high mage in history, and she wants to like make her mark. So she's working on her own, but also with Tamil, and she learns from Tamil about magic users in the Quen. So essentially, the Quen are non-tyrannish people, and Tamil specifically is from the tribe of Kaldane, and there are like many other Quen tribes. And she learns that all of the magic users in Quen history were women. And so she does a lot of digging, and she like remembers that one of the founding mages was half Quen, and his stuff is not very well recorded. He died quite young, and also people kind of like bury the Quen part of his history. So she ends up like doing a lot of research and uncovering some of his like uses of magic, and manages to clear up the images in the like viewing whatever it's called, and that is how she thinks she's going to get an edge over on the other high mages and make her name. But Tamil is like, that is Quen. That is like the southern fields. That is not some other realm. That is this place that we live in right now, just outside of Tyrion. And when she casts a spell and siphons energy, it is the Blight. And when I tell you, I read that, I literally gasped out loud. Oh my god, what a reveal. And so there's this big falling out between the two of them, between Sayana and Tamil, that it hurt. I mean, so they had been like getting to know each other over the course of the chapters, and it was like a painful process because it's like Sayana is constantly being challenged about her essentially life, like her upbringing, all of these things that she's taught to believe as undeniable truths. And as someone who grew up in the church, I very much identify with that sort of thing. I no longer am part of the Christian church, but it is my history, and so I see a lot of that mirrored in here. Quite obviously, I will say this is a little bit heavy-handed, but it's not unenjoyable because of that. So it's a very painful process, but eventually we get to this point where we learn what the Blight is, and this is too much for Sayana. She's like, this can't be like whatever. So she is experiencing a pretty much a complete mental breakdown because of this. And on the flip side, we have Tamil, who has also just learned this. He didn't know that's what the Blight was. He didn't know. He thought this was like some like supernatural random occurrence that affected everywhere outside of Tyrion. But to learn that the lives of his people and their land and everything have been powering this city for hundreds of years is just too much. And we do learn that this takes place 10 years after the first chapter where he makes his crossing into Tyrion, and his niece is 14 years old, and he's like, I can't lie to you, and he explains the whole thing to her, these last two people of their tribe. Okay, sorry about that. But it's just like so emotional and gut-wrenching, and that was the last chapter that I read, so I am very excited to keep going and see how this goes. But yeah, I think it's time for me to visit the library, get some fresh air, and hopefully that will make me feel a little bit better, clear out some of this brain fog. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading, and I will come back with an update at some point, and hopefully I continue to love this book into the second half of it. So I will see you then. Okay, friends, it is 6:45, and I've read 100-ish more pages of Blood Over Brighthaven, so I'm now past the 300 page mark. I'm on page 309 out of 417, so a little over 100 pages left, and shit's really going down. Sayana has been confronting people and learns that even without the spell that she devised to see more clearly through the mapping, whatever it's called. I don't know why I can't remember the term. There's like a chart actually. The mapping coil is what the circle is called. Even without having to see the like siphoning the blight directly, like people tend to like high mages tend to figure out the truth within like 4 or 5 years, I think they said, of becoming high mages. She confronts her mentor, who has always been like a very kind man. He not really advocates for women's rights. That's a little too strong, but he like his factory is the number one employment place for women in the city, and he's one of the good guys. And Sayana brings this to him, and he's like, I really wish you hadn't figured this out, like, so quickly and on your own, like, wanted to ease you into it. And she's like, you knew about this? And he's like, yeah, we kind of all do. And, like, who are we to judge what God has put before us and all this stuff? And she kind of, like, plays along with it to not arouse suspicions. There is a sexual assault scene, so be warned about that. It happens about 250-ish pages into the book. It is not long, it is not super graphic, but it is still something that exists, so if that's something you don't like to read about, just be warned that that is in here. And it's basically more of Sayana being like, I have to do something, and so the chapter I just read is her bringing Tommel and his niece her plan, and they're like, you're crazy. And she's like, well, I can't do nothing, so I'm doing this. And I'm a little bit scared to see how it's all gonna play out, but I am still very excited. For now, though, I think I need a little break from using my eyes so strongly, so I might just go hang out with my boyfriend, maybe convince him to do a little board gaming or backgammon. I love backgammon, and I've been trying to convince him to play backgammon with me for ages, but he kind of just doesn't have an interest in it. But, you know, give my brain a little bit of a rest too. I'm definitely feeling better than I did this morning, but still not great. So, still taking things easy. We did just have dinner, just some good old-fashioned buttered noodles, nothing crazy because I didn't want to upset my stomach. It's been a little bit off in my illness these past couple days. So yeah, I'm gonna go do some other things, probably pick this up for bedtime book club, and then finish it off tomorrow. And unless something absolutely crazy happens that I need to update you on immediately, I will see you tomorrow when I finish this book, and I cannot wait. Hello, friends. It is Sunday morning, about 10:30 a.m., and I am barely holding it together, tearing up a little bit, but not fully crying. I have just finished Blood Over Brighthaven. What a book! I understand why this wouldn't be everyone's cup of tea, but I really, really enjoyed it. I know this is a spoilery vlog, but I won't spoil the ending for you. Just know that it gets real crazy, real fast, and as much as I am someone who loves a happy ending, I acknowledge that not every story should get a happy ending, and this does not. This gets a hopeful ending, and that's just what the story needs. And I really enjoyed this. I wouldn't say that it was perfect. This is not an S rank for me. If you didn't know, this year, instead of doing a scale of 1 to 10, I am ranking my books on a scale of like S, A, B, C, D, F. And I would put this not at S, but at an A ranking, which stands for actually lives in my head rent free, because I will be thinking of this book for a good long while. I, oh my god, I don't even have the words for it. I just am very amazed whenever a standalone manages to accomplish everything in one volume, because I am someone who I could never write a short story. I could barely write a standalone. My ideas always seem to balloon out into series, and this is something that tackles so many things, and it does so, in my opinion, very well in such a short amount of time. Like, this is barely 400 pages, which, granted, the font is kind of small, so it might be deceptively thin. Also, these pages are very thin, so it doesn't look like it is super long, but I don't know, there's so much story packed into here, and yet it doesn't feel bloated, it doesn't feel like overdone to me. So, yeah, I am very happy with this, and I am glad that this was the book club pick. Definitely enjoyed this a lot more than our first two book club picks, but I am very much looking forward to the book club picks that we have in the future. So, hopefully, this is a good turning point for the book club, and I start to enjoy the books even more as we go on. But yeah, wow. I'm gonna have to sit with this one for a little while before I get my full thoughts. So I'm gonna probably do some other stuff before I sit down to do my journal entry for this. But we have now, I guess, come to the end of the vlog since I finished the book. If you enjoyed this vlog, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Feel free to join the book club Discord if you want to do more chatting about this and other book club picks. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, did I already say that? Give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. That's my outro. Bye, everyone!